huge amount of time, especially when you're a kid, and especially when there's not the industry that rap was becoming in 88, 89, 90, which is, of course is a fraction of what it is today. But the question is, for you, how did you navigate this is something I love versus what am I going to do with my life?
Well, when you're a kid, you know, you're open to just keep going. If you have an interest in something when you're young, you usually just tend to stick with it. You know, that is if you really love it. Some people don't have the attention span to just stay on one thing. And you know, that said, I was into a lot of different things. I collected comic books. I was into sci-fi. I was into I was a techie geek back then, even though there weren't computers. I had all of the video games. Whatever was out, I wanted it, you know? Walkmans. Do people even remember what a Walkman is? You know, like I was into all gadgets. So between records, gadgets, comics, it was all about the turntables and getting more records and just focusing on that kind of stuff, you know? I literally would just spend money on that you know, just building up my collection. And I had no problem sticking with it because I did love it, you know, and I wasn't just loving it by myself. My crew loved it. So if you have a crew that's into the same thing you're into, you're all gonna just move forward with it. So and it was a little rough back then because, you know, I was a young teenager and it was just a different time as far as everything that was new. You know, people started smoking weed back then, you know, like weed wasn't really like what it is now, but as a young teen, and you know, weed was illegal, like bad illegal in New York. Like you get thrown up on the wall and get arrested for having a $3 bag of weed. You know, we did those kind of crazy things as kids. You know, we would go to the park, smoke some weed, and drink quarts, as they call them, a quart of beer. You know, some Old English, some whatever the beer was, just knucklehead stuff. So to stay away from that, I was, you know, fortunate to not just get dragged down that road because some of my friends did, unfortunately. You know, I'm not saying that I never did it. I definitely did it. But I loved the craft more than that. And I think, thank God, that might have saved me, you know? That may have kept me from going down a dirty, long, dark path of somebody else I could have been, you know?
Well, congratulations on that. And I also think, too, that this is something Kwame and I have talked about over the years, but it's also amazing that in that few block radius, how many eventual stars there were. So could you break it down to people? Because I know, but I don't think people really appreciate or understand the talent that was within those few blocks.
Yeah, within our, I'd say, a mile radius, a mile circle. I'll even go smaller. I'd say like a 10-block circle. I lived on 98th Street and 25th Avenue, which was right across the street from the park where all of the neighborhood jams were. So I was privy to a lot just being right on that block. But 4 blocks away from me on 95th Street was a brother named Eric Barrier, who later became DJ Eric B. Eric being Rakim's Eric B. So Eric lived 5 blocks from me. I went to school with his little brother, John, you know, so I knew Eric, he knew me, and I knew his family. I knew his middle brother, Ant Live, God rest his soul. Ant Live was in the industry as well. Ant Live used to be a road manager for a bunch of different acts, including Big Daddy Kane. So that's just one. A few more blocks over was another DJ named Polo. DJ Polo is from our neighborhood. And a few more blocks over is his MC, Kool G Rap. So Kool G Rap, Polo, Eric B. And then now let me go to the other direction. 4 blocks from me this way on Humphrey Street was Hurby Luv. Hurby Luv, who produced us all. If it wasn't for Hurby, none of us would be here pretty much. And I'm not talking about Eric and Polo and them. I'm just talking about the Idol Makers clique. Everybody who knows what Hurby's machine is and Idol Makers knows that Hurby Luv was the brains behind all of the stuff that came out the neighborhood on our side. So that's 4 blocks. 4 blocks this way, Eric, 4 blocks this way, Hurby. Now you keep going, I'd say about 4 more blocks, you run into Kid and Play. They were both just different directions, but still within 10 blocks. So Kid and Play is there, Hurby's there, I'm there. And then another maybe 2 blocks over is Kwame, you know? Oh, and how could I forget, hold on. 1.5 blocks from me, Ron Lawrence, my best friend.
That's
so
great.
I didn't count all of that, but yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous how much of a influence on this culture came within that small radius of East Elmhurst, Queens. You know, there's got to be a story, some sort of documentary on this area of Queens and what we did for hip hop and this culture.
Well, I'd love to work on it with you guys, so let's make it happen.
Yeah, let's make it happen. Let's make a unique access into the Hearst.
There you go. Let's do it. But so as those couple years went on, what changed to where Kid and Play got their deal with Select, and what part of that did you have in the early stages?
Okay, well, let me just say, I was not their DJ automatically. Kid and Play existed before I became DJ Wiz with Kid and Play. So in '87, after the many incarnations of groups that they did after Turnout Brothers, after Super Lovers, after Fresh Force, after, I think the name of the other group was Celebrity Club, where they had a record called Girls Rule the World with 2 females. Then they became Kid and Play. And that was all Hurby again. And it was easy for Hurby to get the deal for Kid and Play at Select Records because Hurby was hot. Hurby just finished a successful debut with Salt-N-Pepa. You know, Hurby had Salt-N-Pepa, who were Super Nature before they were actually Salt-N-Pepa. You know, they had their deal on Pop Art with the one song, the answer back.
The Showstopper?
Showstopper's Stupid Fresh. When will you be satisfied? Which, that's Kid saying that on the record. People don't know that. But yeah, you go back, you hear a lot of things. You just listen with a different ear. Kid did a lot of background vocals on a lot of songs. He sure did. And so after that, the success of that, Hurby did Tramp, and it was history. You know, it was just hit after hit. And you know, back in those days, you didn't just automatically get an album deal. Like, you didn't just get signed and automatically get an album. You had to prove yourself each time to make sure you're not a fluke. So after one single, you get another single deal and another single deal. And then they'll say, okay, go ahead and make an album now.
Yeah, that people forget about exercising the options. You know?
I tell you, people, today's culture, today's artists have no clue the struggle it was to make one song, one record, because studio time was very expensive. There was no digital anything. There was no home studio. There was no program where you could just go home and do your vocals and make a beat. You had to have actual money. You had to buy 24-inch reel-to-reels, and that's if you had a deal. Because before that, you had to do the 4-track, you know, and put your whatever music and your vocals, and that was a big deal. You know, if you made a demo on a 4-track, you were really saying something. So
Well, that's the thing was I think that rap, of course, since that's what we were focusing on,
Mm-hmm.
that to even get into it, to make something, it took so much time, money, investment, desire, drive, even to make a demo that could amount to nothing, and that just shows the level of desire people had to want to get into it. And to your point earlier, this is not where we knew like, oh, it's going to lead to riches or it's going to be this major label deal. Like Select Records in 1987, when Kid and Play were signed, was not this huge label. It was this independent New York label that
Right.
it wasn't some behemoth of,
Right.
some heavyweight in the game.
Right. Well, you see, they were on the come up because they had UTFO who came before us. UTFO was such a big hit as a group, and the singles and the album that they had. Kango was in a chat with us the other night, and he was talking about all of the first that they accomplished as that group. Fred Maneo was very fortunate, the owner of Select Records, the president of Select Records. He was very fortunate to be in that position he was back then. So thanks to groups like UTFO, they helped him get paid. And so in turn, as you're paid and you know that this is the hot thing, Fred looks at Hurby and say, "Hey, what you got?" You know, Hurby was shopping. Hurby was hot because Salt-N-Pepa had just went platinum, I believe. They had just went platinum. They were the first female rap artist to go platinum, which is huge. Like people have no idea how big that is today.
That means, granted, we're talking about shipping, but in reality, that means 1 million people actually bought the album.
Right, exactly.
It really means 1 million copies were shipped to stores, but enough of them, of that million, had bought it, which is saying something. Especially in 1987-ish, where rap was still a very small,
right,
relatively speaking.
Yeah, and another side discussion that we were having, you talk about rap and respect for the music. I was talking with, again, my brother DJ Scratch and Red Alert about the radio stations back then. Rap was dissed. Rap got no love. We talk about the first stations, WHBI, 105.9, where people like the Awesome Two and Zulu Beats and the world's famous Supreme Team got radio time like 1 in the morning to like 5 a.m. They would buy time, and that's where we heard our rap, because it was not on FM, any other major station. There was no Hot 97. There was no Power 105. None of that stuff existed. We had WBLS, and they looked at rap and held their nose up like, what? Like, what is this crap? Nobody respected rap. Again.
I know you remember this, but I remember as a kid, growing up in Baltimore, Washington area, that they would announce and promote that they did not play rap on their show.
Yes. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, so you just further put the stamp on it. Rap and hip hop was dissed, like it just wasn't right. And it's funny because all of those people and stations that tried hard to hate and talk about how much it wasn't music. It's really funny now to see how rap and hip hop is kind of like assimilated all other music. You can put rap with anything else. No matter how the music is played or how it sounds, you can put a rhyme to it, no matter what it is. So it's just really interesting to see how that happened.
Be sure to check out The History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the street. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.